Welcome to the one before the last, the upper intermediate B2 level. You have probably noticed that the more we advance within the course, the shorter the sections become. If you compare, for example, the A1 and the B1 course sections, yes, there is difference. And there is an explanation. It's you. You are getting better. And in all grammar books, in all grammar courses, in all classes that you will go to, they will be repeating to you that the basics are the most important. Grammar is studied within the first three levels, basically, A1 to B1. From there on, it's just repetition, it's just summary, revision, and extra exercises. Why? Because the accent, the emphasis is put on vocabulary. Okay, grammar is here and in the next level to be practiced, to be expanded. Just don't think that you do know already everything. Yes, you know a lot of things, but I do still have what else to teach you. As an opening lecture within this level, I have chosen a text in which we will see most of the tenses past so far revised. What's more specific? It's a text, it's a story, and it's a long one. So your task, download the PDF, please do the exercise carefully, and think about several things. First, it's a story. The basic timeline goes in the past. As the main tense is past simple, from there on the other tenses are connected. Be careful in which part you have direct, in which part reported speech. Be careful if the verbs are in active or in passive. There is something called sequence of tenses, which means, for example, when the main timeline is in past simple, you can't expect within the text present perfect to appear. If past simple is the main tense, you have as an option past continuous, past perfect, and past simple, of course. Good luck, be careful really, and we are starting. Good. I hope that you really did it, because this text is quite well structured and it's a perfect match to our purposes now, to revise everything. Again, if you have any doubts in some of the tenses, in some of the forms, in whatever connected with the basics of tenses, the previous lectures are there for you. Here I will not be explaining the structure and everything in details. Okay, we are following the logic and explaining why we need this or that tense. Everything else in the previous levels it was. Starting. I once knew a village teacher who was particularly blind. Knew was. I told you, the main storyline goes in the past. Now be careful. I knew him and he was. He had lost before that, before I had known him. He had lost one eye as a result of an infection. His blind eye, the blind eye is staying passively and something had been done. So his blind eye had been taken out and a glass one, passive again, had been inserted in its place. Past perfect passive. So I knew him, he was blind. Before I met him and before he became blind, there was a moment in which his blind eye had been taken out and a glass one had been inserted. One day, and we are continuing with the main story, the teacher, past simple, needed to leave his class of small children alone for half an hour or so. However, so we are again in the main storyline, but we have by as an indicator for passive here, and it is meant that something happened in order to stop him. However, he was held back by one reason. The children in this class were mischievous. He knew, main story, that if they were left alone for any length of time, they would become violent and complaints would be made by their parents. It's more specific structure within a conditional sentence here. You know that in present simple, when you're in the present and you want to speak about something hypothetical but referring to the present, you need second conditional. Well, here you're keeping this structure. If they were left, they would become, because you don't speak about something which happened in the past from this past perspective. You speak about something which is possible to happen. Because of this, you keep this structure within the sentence. Suddenly, something happened, passive. He was struck by an idea. In a moment, his glass eye, somebody did it, so it was taken out, passive, past simple, and was placed on the table. Reported speech. Now, children, I will go out for a few minutes. Another option here, I'm going out for a few minutes. Plan or spontaneous. But you will be observed all the time by my eye. If anything, in general, we are within the direct speech. If anything, in general, and we are within the direct speech, if anything is done which will not be approved by me, first conditional, it passive, again first conditional, will be seen by my eye, and the child, again first conditional, passive, will be punished when I, future clause, when I return, not when I will return. Again, if you have any problems with future clauses, passive, difference between will or be going to, previous lectures. The children were impressed. We are again within the main storyline very much, and the teacher went out. Story. However, when he returned an hour later, story, it seemed, story, that a hurricane before had passed, past perfect, through the classroom. The teacher, main story, past simple, was surprised, passive. Obviously, I've been outwitted. Be careful here. Obviously, I've been, not I'd been. I've been outwitted. Why? Direct speech within the storyline, which means that we are going to present perfect and all of the other tenses associated with a story out of the past. The situation he's entering, he sees the result of something that has happened. When you speak about a result of an activity which happened in the past, which tense do you need? Exactly, present perfect. And in this sentence, we need also passive. So obviously, I've been outwitted. Main story. The children had overturned before he came back. So it's something which happened before another past activity. The children had overturned the tables, and the walls, again, one step back in time, had been sprayed. It was obvious that good time, again before, had been had by all. The teacher was wondering, period of time, main storyline, was wondering why the presence of his glass eye hadn't been respected. When? Before he came back. And it's passive, again, past perfect, passive. But a minute later, main story, he knew. When he turned round, main story, to look for his eye, he saw, again, actions that happen one after another, that it, one step back in time, it had been covered, passive, with a hat. How was that? Please share your results in the Q&A section. I'm really curious to see what your level now is. It's not an easy task. It was not an easy exercise. So passive, active, tenses, conditionals, whatever your problem areas are, previous lectures in the previous levels. And we are continuing with some more advanced topics here. See you in the next lecture. Once we've revised all tenses in the previous lecture, next step, we are revising all question types and we are doing exercises after that. The exercises are in the attached PDF. Please download and start doing. If necessary, listen to the revision first. If you feel confident enough, just start doing the exercises and we are checking them in a minute. First, I want to remind you how many different types of questions you already know. You know how to form a question with be as an auxiliary verb, as it is in present continuous. Are you doing your homework? Be as a main verb. Were you there last night? Are you here? Have as an auxiliary, as in present perfect. Have you been there? Have as a main verb. Do you have enough time? With modal verbs. May you give me a hand? With all of the question words. Where do you live? Why are you here? You do also know how to form a question when the verb is with a preposition. The preposition goes at the end. Who are you waiting for? You know that there are indirect questions. Example, do you know where the bank is? Do you know the question part? After that, the question itself, just with an affirmative structure, or formed as a positive sentence. Where the bank is. Not, do you know where is the bank? It has double question and it doesn't exist in English in this way. You also know question tags. He came on time, didn't he? All of these types we've passed through in the previous lessons. Any doubts? Go and check the previous lectures. When we mentioned the question tags, I want to emphasize on something that we've just mentioned and that we've seen only in the previous lesson lecture. Pay attention to these tags. I'm on time, aren't I? Not, am I not? No one wants to come, do they? No one, they. And no one is the word which keeps the negative meaning. Because of that we need a positive tag. Do they? We never enjoy our holiday. Do we? Same logic. Never, negative word. Because of that, after that we need positive tag. There's no point calling him, is there? There is no, again considered as negative, and positive tag at the end, is there? Let's go, shall we? Let's go, shall we? Deliberately I read it twice. It's one of the most commonly mistaken sentences. Pay attention and memorize it. Don't forget the tickets, will you? So when you're giving a command, pay attention to the question tag that is formed. That was just to make you pay attention to these sentences. They are really exceptions, so I hope you're having your notebook or your Word, for example, where you're writing everything. This is worth being written there. Starting with the exercises check. In the first one, choose the correct option. I'm sorry, am I interrupting you? At the moment. I'm sorry, now. Am I interrupting you? At the moment of speaking. Present continuous. Question. Am I interrupting you? Was it hot when you were in Spain? Affirmative sentence. It was hot. So you have was as a main verb, the verb to be. And to form the question, What you need is to make an inversion. Was it hot when you were in Spain? Could you tell me where the shop is? It's indirect question. Could you tell me the question part where the shop is? Here is the indirect type and the question part itself. Let's go together, shall we? The question tag from the previous slide. I know she is pretty, but have you ever seen someone spend so much time in front of the mirror? Here I want you to help you revise two things. First, ever, never, recently, lately, for, since, just, yet, already, markers of present perfect. And after that, have you seen someone spend? So see, you remember that in the previous level we spoke about verbs of senses and what the structure of the verb after these verbs of senses is. For example, I saw you play, I saw you playing. Well, same story goes here. But have you ever seen and the whole action after that? Spent. That's why you need the bare infinitive. Next exercise. Indirect questions. Does Tom know about computers? I wonder whether Tom knows about computers. Excuse me, how do you get to the cafe from here? Could you tell us how to get to the cafe from here? How to get. Do you have any idea what you are doing? So you get rid of the inversion, which is typical for the questions. Do you have any idea what you are doing? Is there any chance to take me to the airport? Any chance to take me to the airport? I can't remember if Anne likes classical music. You see that the indirect questions can be written as affirmative sentences, in fact, if you just require some information to be provided. If you want to keep the question structure, then you need to be a little bit more careful, and in those cases you need the question mark, but not always. Next exercise. Make questions with who or what. The detective forgot something. What did the detective forget? Subject and object questions. Do you remember them? What has been stolen? Who won the lottery this weekend? Reminding you, when you ask about the subject, when you ask about the person who is doing the action in one sentence, you don't need the auxiliary. Who won the lottery? Not who did win the lottery. The same sentence, number 3. Someone won the lottery this weekend. If you start the question with what, make it. What did someone win? Exactly. So, who won? What did someone win? Subject, object questions. Previous level again. Check it if you have any questions. She wants something special for her birthday. What does she want for her birthday? You're asking about the object again. Start the question with who. Yes. Who wants something special? She. Be careful about this difference. Subject, object questions. The police arrested someone. Who did the police arrest? Someone. Next exercise. Where did you go on holiday 2 years ago? 2 years ago, marker for past simple. Where did you go? How often, in general, do you go to the gym? Who wrote 1984? Who wrote? Object question. Could you tell me how much indirect this newspaper costs? In general, indirect question. What happens at the end of the episode? Object question in general present simple. What kind of books does Anne like reading? In general, like plus verb plus ink. How were the exercises? I hope in fact that they were a little bit difficult for you, because doing something that you find challenging is always quite more interesting, and at the same time you feel it useful. You know that you understood something new, that you learned something new. See you in the next video. Here is something we have never spoken about so far: the order of the adjectives. Yes, you can't just put an adjective wherever you want in front of a noun, especially in the case when there are two or more adjectives, and it's common. Take a look at this. It's beautiful sunny weather, not it's sunny beautiful weather. I have a big black cat, not a black big cat. The question is why? Well, here is why. When you use adjectives in front of a noun, there is a specific order that you need to follow. Take a look at the chart, pause the video if necessary, and try to catch the logic of this. Pause the video, really, read it. Okay, so when there is a noun, of course you're not going to use all of these types of adjectives all the time, but you need to be careful with this. The more subjective the adjective is, the more distant from the noun it is. That's why first you start with your opinion, after that you start getting nearer and nearer to the noun till you reach its purpose. Examples: lovely, small, thin, clean, new, red, dotted, Chinese cotton shopping bag. Okay? Yes, I'm sure that you will not be able to remember it exactly, and you're not going to use it all the time. Try to find your way, in fact, of memorizing these words. Some people try to make a sentence with the first letters of each of the adjective types in order to remember it. Some just remember the words. I know the words, in fact, one after another, and that's it. Some use their gut feeling, their inside feeling for this, how the adjectives to be ordered. Because, honestly speaking, when you talk to somebody, you can't start thinking about the adjectives order, right? Well, at the beginning, I really was using this one. I memorized the words order and I was trying to follow the rule. After several months of speaking in English, well, I saw that it doesn't work. Because of that, I just read more and I just started talking more, watching more, and paying more attention to the adjectives order. At the end, now it's just a good feeling, and I really don't pay attention to this order exactly. But in the beginning, it's important to know that there is an order which is worth being followed, and it's up to you how you will memorize, how you will get advantage of this. Task. Try your good feeling if you want. You need to order the adjectives. And here it is. The easiest way for you, at least at the beginning, is to follow exactly these steps. Take all of the adjectives that you have. First put the noun, and after that start ordering the adjectives. Here's the result. First we say the color, after that the material, then comes the noun. Black, leather, pair of shoes. Next one is a little bit more difficult. Here it is. Okay, the same logic. We start ordering the adjectives up to their type, and here is what we have at the end. Beautiful, long, white, French, silk, wedding dress. This one is quite plausible, actually. It's really possible you to have that many adjectives in front of a dress if you want to describe it, or in front of any other noun. Remember what I told you at the very beginning. Adjectives keep the variety of the language, the power of the language. So the more advanced you are, the more adjectives you are going to use. And at that situation, you are to need these orders and this logic. Write it down, try to memorize, practice, and you will see that you will start doing it without thinking, as everything else connected with grammar. See you in the next lecture. Another short and easy, let's say, lecture prepared for you today. Adjectives as nouns. Take a look at what I mean. The English are famous for drinking tea. The English. English is an adjective, right? The English. The Argentinians invented the tango. The Argentinians. The Turks drink a lot of coffee. So the first usage that you need to be aware of is the plus the nationality. A structure is identical to saying the people of or the people from. Another example. The poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. The poor, the rich, both of these are examples for adjectives used as nouns. Or, the government needs to help the homeless. Homeless, adjective, used as noun. The is also used plus a group of people. The poor, the rich, the homeless. Which one do you like more? The red one or the green one? Which one? One is important here. Which ones is important here. Do you like more? The red ones. Please check in the dictionary if you're not sure the difference of the meaning between once, spelled in this way, and once as O-N-C-E. Once upon a time, whatever. Which once, which one. As a rule, the ones, the red ones, the blue one, when you use one, you speak about something in singular. When you say once, you mean something in plural. And that's important. So because of that, this will be our exercise. Pause the video, do it, and we are checking it together. Only one exercise, the task one or once. Alright, you're careful. If you speak about something which is in singular, or if you speak about something which is in plural. This bag is very old. I need a new one. Singular, one. Small pineapples are sweeter than big ones. Pineapples, plural, big ones. The new smartphones are much faster than the old ones. Smartphones, plural, than the old ones. Which is your car, the black one or the white one? Singular, one. She needs new shoes. The old ones are too small. Shoes, plural, ones. She needs new shoes. The old ones are too small. If you buy 2 bottles of water, you get a third one free. A third one, the same as one. I mean, it's singular. So because of that, you need one, not once. Difference between one and once clear. The other 2 important things from this lecture. Adjectives as nouns are used when you speak about nationality, the English, the Dutch, the Russians, and so on. Adjectives are also used as nouns when you refer to a group of people, the poor, the rich. you're ready for the next video. See you there. I bet you've started missing tenses. Well, here they are. At least one. Past perfect continuous, something that we haven't spoken about so far. And before we go to past perfect continuous, I want to make you revise present perfect and present perfect continuous. Because the story with past perfect and past perfect continuous, as you may guess, is quite identical. So within present perfect, the emphasis is put on the fact that there is a finished action, that there is a result from an action which happened somewhere in the past, and this result is in the present. The question most commonly present perfect sentences answer to is how many. By contrast, present perfect continuous refers to unfinished action. It refers to a period of time. And the typical question for present perfect continuous is how long. Have done, present perfect. Have been doing, present perfect continuous. Let's compare. She was crying because she had been reading a sad book. Past perfect continuous. She didn't want to see the film because she had already read the book. Finished action, action in a progress, unfinished action. Period, past perfect continuous. When an action was finished, when the activity was finished before the moment of speaking, then you need past perfect. The difference is quite easy to be caught within context. So we are heading for the exercises had been doing or had done. Past perfect or past perfect continuous. Let's see. PDF exercises, you know what to do. When we arrived, the concert had started. It had started in the past, before the moment something else happened. Past perfect. She had been working in that company for 20 years when she was made redundant. Up to the moment when she was made redundant, she had been working. Remember that when you use past perfect continuous, you emphasize on the duration. This is what is important. You want to put the emphasis on the fact that this or that activity had taken too long time. I felt ill because I had drunk 6 cups of coffee. How many? 6. How many is the indicator for the perfect simple tenses, which means past perfect in our case. I had been studying all day, so I was tired. An action that was in progress before another past action. And we really want to emphasize here that the duration of the activity was important. So past perfect continuous is ideal for the case. Had been studying. How long had you been living in Madrid when your son was born? An activity that was in progress before another past activity happened. Past perfect continuous. When I arrived at the airport, I realized I had forgotten my passport. So I arrived, I realized, and something else happened in the past. This past activity has a result in another past moment. Past perfect. I had broken my ankle, so I couldn't go skiing last year. I couldn't go skiing last year because before that I had done something. And this thing that I had done before has its result in another past moment, in the fact that I couldn't go skiing. You see what I meant when I told you that the story here is quite identical to what you already know. The difference between past perfect and past perfect continuous, again, can be compared to the difference between present perfect and present perfect continuous. So when you master a pair of these, you understand the others as well. See you in the next lecture. As past perfect continuous was the last narrative tense in English, congratulations, yes, you've mastered them. Let's check what you remember and how good you are in coping with different exercises in different contexts. Test fast, go and do it, and we'll explain what and why now. My sister and I swam every day last summer. Last summer, past simple. I was not sure how you would react because I hadn't known you for long. I hadn't known. First, know is a stative verb. Because of that, you can't use the continuous forms. After that, I was not sure. You're in the past. And you have an indicator for perfect tense. For. When you're in the past and you need a perfect tense, you are required to use past perfect. Hadn't known. Up to the moment when I speak, up to that past moment, I hadn't known you. It was raining when the bell rang. It was raining. An action was in progress when somebody else happened. When the bell rang. The first one, in progress. I had been working here for long when they promoted me. I had been working here for long when they promoted me. The other options just can't pass the meaning of the sentence. You need to express continuity of the activity. When you want to speak about progress, you need either past continuous or past perfect continuous. Here, just it depends on the meaning. If you want to say that a long time had passed and after that something else happened, well, this is our story at the moment. Past perfect continuous had been working. For long, for is your indicator for perfect tenses. I had been working here for long. When the burglary happened, we were sleeping. An action was in progress when something else happened. Combination between past simple and past continuous. I told Tom not to drive because he had been drinking all night. An action was in progress before something else happened. He had been drinking. Why did you change the station? I was listening to the news. An action was in progress when something else happened. I was listening when you changed it. I was getting dressed when the lights went off. I was getting. The first one was in progress when something else happened. Combination between past continuous and past simple. When I saw him, I understood he hadn't changed a lot recently. Recently indicates the necessity for perfect tense. When I saw him, you are in the past, so you need past perfect, not present perfect here. You need to say that something hadn't happened up to a moment in the past, hadn't changed. And last but not least, as soon as we entered the room, the lights went off. Actions which happen one after another in the past, yes, past simple, sequence of activities. Enough with the narrative tenses for now. Something else as a mini topic in the next lecture. See you there. In this and the next lecture, we are going to speak about adverbs. Yes, you do already know a lot of things about them, but believe me, that's not everything. So first, I'll introduce you to the concept of the place of adverbs, where adverbs are situated within a sentence. After that, in the next video, we'll speak about the types of adverbs and we'll see precisely which type of adverb needs to stay where in a sentence. But first things first, what we know so far. Generally speaking, an adverb is formed from the adjective plus a y, or at least this is what you knew at the A1 level. So he drives carefully. How? Carefully. Adjective careful plus a y, and you have the adverb. What you do also know is that there are adjectives whose forms are the same as the adverbs: hard, fast, long, deep, early, and so on. You're careful here about the differences in the meaning. Hard, hardly. Fast, fastly. You remember this. Free, freely. There is difference. Another thing that you know, another type of adjectives. These are the adjectives that we associate with present simple, or the adverbs of frequency. Always, usually, often, sometimes. These are the adverbs which indicate when something happened, how often. But that's not everything. There are other different types of adverbs that you need to be careful about and that you need to consider when you want to use them. The first thing to be careful about, where to put the adverb. Examples. Perhaps she will arrive tomorrow evening. Perhaps at the beginning of the sentence. I hardly knew him. In the middle of the sentence. I hardly knew him. I left the room and ran upstairs. At the end of the sentence. So generally speaking, that's it. The adverb, depending on its type, can be at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the sentence. Which adverbs go where, we'll speak in more details in the next video. But here I want to revise and to put the emphasis on something else that you know, and I'm not sure that you make a difference between. Look at these examples. She has always liked Tom. She always thinks about him. So in the perfect tenses, the place of the adverb is between the auxiliary, has, have, or had, and the verb, like in our case. When the structure requires only an adverb and a verb to be used, then the adverb comes before the verb. But when we speak about the verb to be, when the verb to be is used within a sentence, then it's important to think what meaning you want to convey and so where to use the adverb. These both sentences are correct. My boss is usually in a good mood. You really are better today, aren't you? So when you say the sentence in the usual way, which means that first is the verb to be, after that is the adverb, this is the structure that you know, you don't add any additional meaning. But when you first say the adverb and after that comes the verb to be, then you put the emphasis. You put the emphasis of the verb. You really are better today, aren't you? You really need to know what the fact is. In the next video, I told you, we are going to look at the types of adverbs. Yes, you know some of them, but not all so far. And after that, we are going to check which adverb needs to go where within a sentence. See you there. We have mentioned this several times so far. There are different types of adverbs. and you do know some of them. Just, I'm not sure that you are aware that all of these words are adverbs. Why it is important? Because up to the type of adverb, you are aware of the position of the adverb in a sentence, which means you need to know this in order to speak and in order to write. Let's get started. The first group of adverbs are the adverbs that you know from the very beginning, from the A1 level. These are the adverbs of manner, or these are the adverbs that show you how an action is done. They're formed on your well-known way. Adjective plus ly. Quiet, quietly. Here you're very careful about the irregular forms. Good as adjective, well as adverb. You're also careful about the differences in meaning, hard and hardly. How, adverbs of manner. When it comes to the order or to their position in the sentence, remember that the adverbs of manner stay after the verb. He played well. She ran fast. Or, if there is an object after the verb, as in the very last sentence, he cleaned the house quickly. He cleaned the house how? Quickly. So, on this way, they stay after the object. If the sentence is short, he cleaned the house, it's a short sentence, then the adverb goes at the end of the sentence. Adverbs of manner, first group. After that, here, there, outside, inside, up and down. Yes, these are adverbs as well. These are adverbs of place. They tell you where something happened. Where. And up to their position, here is what you need to remember. The adverbs of place can be at the very beginning, at the very end, and in the middle of the sentences. If you want to put it in the middle, then it needs to go in fact after the verb. She ran outside. She went upstairs. If you put them at the end of the sentence, that's how you're going to end up your thought. He didn't feel well last weekend. The same sentence you can say in inverted order. Last weekend, he didn't feel well. Of course, up to the position of the adverb, you put the emphasis on one part of the sentence or on another. Next group of adverbs. The adverbs which answer the question when something happened, or these are the adverbs of time. Most commonly, you will associate them with the time markers that we spoke about. Yesterday, tomorrow, early, lately, last month. About their place, you know. Also, they can be at the beginning, at the end, or in the middle of the sentences. Based on the position you will choose, you determine what is important in your sentence. So, if you start with yesterday, you put the emphasis on the fact that something happened yesterday. If you put the adverb at the end of the sentence, you want to say that the action is more important, not when exactly it happened. When? Adverbs of time. Another group. The group that you associate with present simple, or these are the adverbs of frequency. How often something happened. Usually, often, sometimes, you know the difference between these words. You do also remember, you can put them before or after the verb to be, depending on where you want to put the emphasis. When it comes to a meaningful word, meaningful verb, he sometimes sings. So it's always before the verb. Here are some examples. He has sometimes asked for advice, sometimes never. We will never make $1 million. When the tense is formed with an auxiliary and a main verb after that, the adverb is in the middle. Has sometimes asked, not has asked sometimes. In the middle, between the auxiliary and the meaningful verb. About the verb to be and the other verbs, you know how the story goes. Just be careful, because after a period of time, you will not even think about this one. It will just come out of the blue because you know how to speak and you don't think about grammar. But at the beginning, it's important to follow the rules in order your intuition to the language to be well developed. Next group. These are the adverbs of degree, or the adverbs which answer the questions how much or to what degree. Examples: perfectly, extremely, quite, a lot, almost. Again, they can be at the beginning, at the end, in the middle of the sentences. Exercises. The exercise you will find in the attached PDF. Please do it, and we are checking these 10 sentences now. Okay. We were in Tokyo last week. He rarely woke, verb after that, his dog. She waited impatiently. How impatiently? My father always goes skiing. Always, an adverb which shows how often something is done. Your bedroom is downstairs. We don't go swimming in summer. Dogs can hear well. I saw her nearby. The girl speaks Spanish fluently. I have never read that book before. Please, in the Q&A section, write down the other possible locations. Write examples, these same sentences, just write them with the other places where an adverb can be. Looking forward to checking it together with you. Good luck. Time for our favorite mini-series. Well, in this level, when it comes to passive, I have prepared for you some information about the structures of passive and second verb forms, which means how passive and to infinitive is used, how passive and gerund is used. But before that, you know, I like repeating. Repetition always helps. It helps you to revise, it helps you to catch up, it helps you to structure your thoughts and to get better. So let's take a look at the basic forms of passive that you do already know. Let's do some exercises after that, and in the next videos we are continuing. Passive in simple tenses, you need the correct form of the verb to be, plus the third form of the verb. I believe that nobody has any problems with irregular verbs already. Please. Passive simple. Passive continuous tenses. In continuous tenses, you need again the correct form of the verb to be, plus being, and being here, I'm repeating it, it's just an auxiliary. It's just a helping form for you to formulate the passive structure. And after being comes the third form of the verb. When you want to indicate the doer of the action in passive, you need by. By whom? Passive in perfect tenses is formed with the correct have, has, or had, depending on the tense, plus been, plus third form of the verb. Everything that is connected with the usage of passive in context applies to the same rules that are considered when you form sentences. So the rules that you know about present perfect, past continuous, and so on, these are the same rules you need to follow when you structure your passive sentences. Every time when there is grammar exercise, when you speak, when you write, please be careful what is required from you, what structure is needed, how you would best express your thoughts, because that's the final idea, right? Starting with the exercises, the PDF is attached, you may see it, and let's get checked. The first one, turn into passive. The employers have not found a person for the job yet. A person for the job has not been found yet. Tense given, you just need to apply the structure. They are blaming her for the mistake. Present continuous. They are blaming her. She is being blamed for the mistake. The teachers have cancelled the strike. Present perfect. To make it passive, you need to be careful just that the teachers is in plural, the strike in singular. So the strike has been cancelled. Did your teacher call you? Question in passive. You're careful here about the word order. Were you called by the teacher? Were you called? Not did you call. Were you called? They had not reached a conclusion when I entered. A conclusion had not been reached when I entered. Past perfect passive. Second exercise is a text here. A Birmingham woman was attacked with a knife on her way home last night. Last night, you have the time frame given. Mrs. Smith had just left, past just, her shop when she was stopped by, passive, a stranger who, time frame, tried to take her handbag. While Mrs. S or Mrs. Smith was trying to fight back, you have while, indicator for past continuous, and second verb form, try to do something. The man took out a knife. Took out, main past frame. Mrs. S's face was cut, passive, and she was taken immediately to hospital. So you need to be careful here, active or passive, and you need to be careful about the sequence of tenses. But after all of the exercises, I want to believe at least that these now are easy for you. See you in the next lecture, where we'll speak about some different forms of passive again. Welcome back. As we've revised what passive is, how it is formed, and how the forms change in different tenses, it's time to look at something more different, something advanced. Let's see how gerunds and infinitives form their passive forms. Examples, of course. They used to collect stamps. They used to. Active. Stamps used to be collected. Used to be collected. Passive. Another example. She needs to feed the baby. The baby needs to be fed. You see, the passive goes in the second verb form. Another example. I can't do this job, sorry. This job cannot be done. In all of these examples, we have passives of the second verb forms, passives of the infinitives, and how it is formed. Used to be collected, needs to be fed. After the first verb, if it requires to infinitive, we add to. After that, we add be. Then comes the third form of the verb. If we are in the context of modal verbs, as in the last example, cannot or may not, then we can't use to, because you know, after modal verbs, we have bare infinitive, the verb only. Because of that, we use only be and the third form of the verb. This job cannot be done. Good. Examples for gerund. She enjoys being taken pictures of. She enjoys, and after that the second verb form is in passive, being taken pictures of. He enjoys taking pictures of her. She enjoys being taken pictures of. Or you can start a sentence with a gerund. Being served quickly is important for customers in a restaurant. Being served quickly. As a rule, when you want to use gerund in passive, you need being, which again is just an auxiliary. It's not a meaningful verb. And the third form of the meaningful verb after that. To be done, being done. Practice is what will help you here as well. You've noticed that with every lecture, we step on what we have already learned, what we have already passed, and what is supposed to be understood. After that comes the new things. Please be aware of this and keep on studying lecture after lecture. If you miss something, then it will be a problem, in fact, for you, because you will not be able to understand everything. Okay, let's see the exercises. The exercise, in fact, is attached in the PDF after the lecture. We are checking it. The baby likes, like, plus gerund. Likes being held by her mother. Being held. Passive. They're afraid of being attacked because of the neighborhood is dangerous. They're afraid of. When there is a verb plus preposition, it's a rule that always after the preposition comes the gerund. They're afraid of being attacked. The third one. The answer should. Modal verb. Passive. The answer should not be given right now. Should not be given. Passive. The students don't look forward to. Look forward to. After that you need gerund. Passive. So the students don't look forward to being tested on their skills. I don't want to. Passive. I don't want to be given more tasks this week. I don't want to be given. Number 6 starts with a gerund. Being forced to live in solitary confinement was difficult. Being forced. Passive. Do you need more exercises on this? Just give me a hint in the Q&A section and I will prepare something else. See you in the next video. This and the next 2 lectures are connected. Again, the topic, impersonal structures. Something that, again, we haven't spoken about so far. Well, this is the moment. Upper intermediate. Now you are ready. In this and in the next lecture is the theory. The exercises after that. Please stay focused all the time because it's important here to catch the logic. Once you understand the logic, you see that these structures are really easy and it's not a problem to be used. So it is said that this is the first thing we are going to speak about. Examples. People say that Anne is in love with Mark. And if you want to get rid of this people say, you can say it is said that, and you make it impersonal, you see? You just don't say who is the doer of the action. You just say that somebody said it, or that it is said. Impersonal structure. It is said that. How it is formed? You start with it is, and after that the verb in the third form. It is said. Passive. Passive, starting with the impersonal it. The tense after that depends on the sentence. As here, some people reported that the president had been in an accident. Some people reported. Here is where you need to make the transformation and to go to impersonal structures. Some people reported it, past simple, so you added it was reported that. Some people reported past simple. Passive, starting with it to make it impersonal, it was reported that. We've agreed that the changes in the management are necessary. We've agreed. Present perfect. Present perfect, passive, impersonal structure. It has been agreed that changes in the management are necessary. It has been said that. It has been agreed that. When you make these transformations, it's important to keep the tense and to start with it in order to make it impersonal. It is believed that, it is thought that, it is explained that, it is said that. These are the most common beginnings that you will use while forming this or that impersonal structure. And when they are used, mostly in formal writing, informal speaking, in the press, in newspapers, in the news. You can hear them and you can see them there. If you are aiming at going to FC or CAE once, remember that in the reports, in the proposals that you're going to write, and in the speaking, these phrases will be really important for you. They show that your English is on higher than the middle level. They show that you are able of expressing your thoughts with various grammar structures, and it's really important. It's been several times when people ask me, okay, why do I need to study that difficult thing if there is a simple way to say it? Agree, there is a simpler way. But what will it be like if you happen to be in a room or in a situation in which you need to speak to people who speak in this way? Or if you need to just express yourself in a formal way? Well, then you will need formal English. Then you will need advanced grammar structures. It's easy to speak in less formal and in an easier, let's say, English if you know how to make it more difficult. The opposite way, to have, let's say, intermediate level of the language and to start using advanced structures, this is the hard task. Good luck! Next video connected with this one. Impersonal structures, part 2. Be careful again. They think he is handsome. He is thought to be handsome. He is thought to be. So they think. They think, you make it into passive. He is thought. Passive present simple. They think he is. He is thought to, and after that the verb, to be handsome. They believed he was guilty. He was believed to be guilty. They believed, past simple. Passive, he was believed. He was believed to plus the verb, to be guilty. But here, they believed he had committed the crime. Be careful. They believed he had committed. You see that there is difference in the tenses here. They believed, past simple, he had committed, past perfect. To keep this difference in the tenses, we need to do something in our impersonal structure. This is what we need to do. So again, we are focusing first on the first verb, on the reporting verb, they believed. We make it into passive. He was believed. 2. Up to here the structure is the same. After that, when you want to say that there is difference in the period when two actions happened, and you need to keep this difference in the to infinitive, you need, this is called perfect infinitive. It means he was believed to have after that third form of the verb. to have committed. Another example. Someone thinks the company is planning a new campaign. The company is thought to be planning a new campaign. To be planning, because the original sentence is continuous. When there is a combination between present simple and present continuous, then the structure requires you to keep it. The company is thought, passive of present simple, is planning, this one made into continuous infinitive, means to be planning. The company is thought to be planning a new campaign. Here the examples are: they think he's handsome. Again, he is thought, passive of the first part, to be. He is thought to. After that, just the simple verb. When there is no difference in the tenses, this is the structure followed. Passive of the first verb, after that to, and infinitive of the second. Examples: the first two sentences. When there is difference in the tenses, the change in our structure comes after to. Up to to, everything is the same. He was believed, passive of the first part, to. And after to, you need to use not the simple infinitive, as in the first two sentences, but the perfect infinitive. He was believed to have committed the crime. To have committed. The magazine is thought to be planning. When there is a continuous tense, you need, again, to keep the tenses. Here you are not changing tenses. Here you are paraphrasing structures. So because of that, the magazine is thought to, up to here the same, after that continuous infinitive, to be planning a new campaign. I know that it sounds a little bit misleading and a little bit more difficult, but this is just because you see this structure for the first time. Remember the very first time when I introduced you to passive, or the very first time when we started talking about different tenses? Well, this is the same. It requires practice and thinking. Please rewrite these sentences, use them as a pattern, and let's think in patterns. Exercises in the next video. Try to catch the logic in order we to be able to apply it. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video. First, please, PDF exercises, and we are checking them. See you. Time to see what you've remembered and how you can apply the impersonal structures in practice. You have seen the exercise and you have done it, I hope, so let's start discussing. People know that he is a good driver. Each of the sentences we need to transform in the two ways, making it impersonal and starting with he or she and making it impersonal after that. So, people know present simple, that he is present simple. No difference in the tenses. It is believed, passive in present simple, that he is a good driver. He is believed, passive, to, and just the verb after that, simple infinitive, because there is no difference in the tenses. He is believed to be a good driver. They thought that the children were asleep. They thought. It was thought that the children were asleep. No difference in the tenses. The children were thought to be asleep. To plus simple infinitive. No difference in tenses. People believe that the robber has worked in the house. Has worked. There is difference in tenses. Be careful. It is believed that the robber has worked in the house. The robber is believed, first part passive, to have worked in the house. perfect infinitive because we want to show the difference in the tenses, the difference in the moment when something happened. Believed, to have worked. His colleagues thought that he had won the lottery. His colleagues thought, past simple, he had won the lottery. Difference in tenses. It was thought that he had won the lottery. He was thought, be careful, perfect infinitive, to have won the lottery. 4 more. People knew that he had played in the group. Difference in tenses. It was known that he had played. He was known to have played. Perfect infinitive. They supposed that the new product had already come out. They supposed. It was supposed that the new product had already come out. The new product was supposed, perfect infinitive, difference in tenses, to have already come out. They found that the mission was going on. They found that the mission was going on. We have continuous tense here, we need to keep it. It was found that the mission was going on. The mission was found, perfect infinitive, to be going on. You see, they are interesting, in fact, and easy when you catch the logic. They believe that she will win a gold medal. They believe. It is believed that she will win a gold medal. She is believed to win a gold medal. Good job. If you have questions, please ask in the Q&A section. If you need more exercises, just give me a hint. See you in the next video. It's been a long time since we last spoke about the future tenses, don't you think? So here are they back. But in fact, we need to speak about 2 more future tenses. This and the next lecture. Let's get started with future perfect. We are almost done with the tenses, don't worry, and I believe that you are getting better with them. So future perfect. Example. By the time you come back home, I'll have prepared the dinner. By the time you come back home. I'll have read this book by the time it's due back to the library. I'll have read. Let's focus on this second sentence. I will have read this book by the time it's back to the library. First, paying attention to the forms of future perfect, will have read. And remember that these forms are the same for all persons. I will have read, he will have, not he will has, please. He will have read, they will have read. No difference here. The usage then. I will have read the book by the time. Imagine the scenario. Today is May the 1st. I need to turn the book back by 1st of June. And I say, by the time the moment I need to return it comes, I will have finished it. Which means you speak about an activity that will be finished up to a future moment. Again, an activity that will be finished up to a future moment. Practices. The exercise is attached. Let's check it. Tom will have repaired his bike by next week. By next week, indicator that you speak about an activity that will have been finished up to a future moment. Tom will have repaired. We will have done the washing by 8 o'clock. Will have done. An action will have been finished up to a future moment. She will have visited Paris by the end of next year. By the end of next year, which is a moment in the future, an action will have been completed. We will have visited Paris. I will have finished this by 6 o'clock. Today is, for example, Monday, it's 4. By 6 today, I will have finished it. An action will have been finished up to a moment in the future. Mark will have left by next week. By next week, marker for future perfect. She will have discussed this with her mother by the time we come. Future perfect. The police will have arrested the driver by the time you come back. Future perfect. I want to take the first sentence, for example. Please start with the bike and turn it into passive. Yes, the bike will have been repaired. Will have been. You know this one, you know how to do it, so just apply your whole knowledge. Remember that the tenses in English are logical, and once you know the basics, you can cope with all of them. Good luck with the extra practices. See you in the next video. The last way of talking about the future is using future continuous. Future continuous, I think you can catch it from its name even, expresses an action that is in progress in a future moment. Let's look at in some examples. Unfortunately, I can't come to the party. I'll be working all day tomorrow. Tomorrow, an activity will be in progress. I will be working. Pay attention to the forms. They are the same for all persons. Will be verb plus ing. This time next week, we'll be lying on the beach. This time next week. This time next week. This time next year. This time tomorrow. These are the typical markers for future continuous. So this time next week, an action will be in progress. We'll be lying on the beach. When you arrive, I'll be working in the garden. In the future, an activity will be in progress. Here are the 3 sentences that we've just looked at. Again, as forms, will, be, verb plus ing. That's it. It doesn't change. It doesn't matter if you speak about him or her or they. Nothing changes here. You need to be careful about the rules that you already know, the spelling rules, about the formation of verb plus ing, and you need to be careful about the usage, of course. In what situations exactly you need future continuous. The marker, I told you. This time next week, you're sure that you speak about something that will be in progress in the future. And again, time for exercise. It's attached, your task to choose between future perfect and future continuous. Do the exercise, we are checking it together. Okay, by the end of this week, up to here even it's enough for you to understand. By the end of something refers to an action that will be completed up to a future moment, right? Well, it's obvious. You need future perfect. So, by the end of this week, we will have worked on the project for 2 months. By 9 o'clock, she will have watched TV for 4 hours. This time tomorrow, we will be celebrating because we will have finished our exams. In the future, there will be an activity that will be in progress. The fact that we will be celebrating, and we will be celebrating because there will be another activity that will have finished up to that future moment. Will have finished. By the end of the week, I will have lived in this town for 5 years. By the end of the week. By a future moment, something will have happened. Future perfect. Don't phone her now. She will be having dinner. She will be having dinner. An action will be in progress in the future. By July the 1st, by something future perfect. They will have studied English for 3 years. Here also you paid attention probably to the fact that in almost every sentence where we used future perfect, there was one of the perfect tense markers, for or since. It's typical, I told you. The tenses in English are easy and logical. It's just important you to study them step by step, not to try to memorize everything at once. I really hope that you are following the lectures in the way I've ordered them. And on this way, you have the wow effect at the end. You have mastered the grammar till the very last lecture. See you in the next video. Conditional sentences. And we continue following the approach that's typical for the whole course. First, we are revising what we know. After that, based on this, we upgrade our knowledge. The same here. In this lecture, we'll be revising and we'll be doing exercises. In the next one, 2 new types of conditionals. Let's get started. So far you know the 0, the first, the second, and the third conditional. 0 conditional, structure if present simple, present simple. As structure, 0 conditional is used when you speak about universal truths. If you heat water, it boils. After that, first conditional. First conditional as structure if present simple, will. And first conditional describes possible situations in the present. If you are late, your sister will be angry. Second conditional refers to the present again. Remember this one really well. Refers to the present. As structure, it follows the pattern if, past simple, would. And thanks to second conditional, you may express imaginary or hypothetical situation in the present. If I knew German, I would move to Germany. Hypothetical situation. The reality, I don't know German, that's why I can't move to Germany. Third conditional. The only structure you know so far that refers to the past. Both of the parts in the third conditional refer to the past. If past perfect, would have plus third form of the verb. And as a meaning, it refers to a hypothetical situation that can't be changed because it happened in the past. So if you could have changed the past, what would have happened? Something like that. Good. I think that you're good at this. At least I hope so. If you have any doubts, if you need some more revision, please come back and check the lectures for conditional sentences in the previous levels. Now we are heading for the exercise. You need to make conditionals out of these sentences. And we are checking them together. That student doesn't work hard. He won't succeed. Present. You need to make it hypothetical. Second conditional. If that student worked hard, he would succeed. I wasn't careful because they didn't warn me. I would have been careful if they had warned me. You speak about the past. Third conditional. He doesn't know their address, so he can't write to them. He doesn't know, so he can't. Make it hypothetical and go to second conditional. If he knew their address, he would write to them. If he knew, he would write. I dyed my hair yesterday, and everybody laughed at me at the party. In the past, To make it conditional, you need the third conditional. If I hadn't dyed my hair, nobody would have laughed at me. I can't tell you where she is because I don't know. About the present, you want to make it hypothetical. Second conditional. I would tell you where she is if I knew. Perhaps they don't know. Tell them immediately. Perhaps they don't know. So first conditional, which means the simple structure. If they don't know, tell them immediately. Or if they don't know, you need to tell them immediately. Conditionals now are easy. Let's go on working and let's keep upgrading. Mixed conditionals. Yes, there is something like this. Let's check what it is and let's understand how to form it thanks to the next lecture. See you there. After we revised all types of conditionals, now you're ready. You're ready to start with the mixed conditionals. So let's first look at some situations, and after that we'll speak about this. I didn't listen to my parents' advice. I'm in trouble now. I didn't study hard enough. I'm not ready for the test now. I bought a car. I'll give you a lift. Out of these, we are going to form first mixed sentences. Mixed conditionals, first type. I didn't listen to my parents' advice. I'm in trouble now. So the first part of the sentence refers to the past. The second one to the present. Make it as a conditional. If I had listened to my parents' advice, I wouldn't be in trouble now. First part, about the past. About the past, you know, we use third conditional. So we take the first part of third conditional, past perfect. If I had listened to my parents' advice, and after that we make something hypothetical about the present. Hypothetical present we form with second conditional. So we take the second part of second conditional. I wouldn't be in trouble now. Hypothetical first part, hypothetical second part. Again, let's formulate it as a rule. The first type of mixed conditionals looks like this. If past perfect, would plus be. Imagine it as a combination between second and third conditional. After if comes the first part of third conditional because you speak about a hypothetical situation in the past. After the comma comes the second part of second conditional as you speak about hypothetical situation in the present. Hypothetical past condition with present result. That's what is expressed with the first type of mixed conditional. Some more examples. I don't have a telephone. I didn't call you last night. I don't know the answer. I couldn't help you yesterday. I can't speak English fluently. They didn't promote me last week. Do you see the difference now? The difference between the first type of examples and the first three sentences and these three sentences. Well, that's it. Second type of mixed conditionals. One of the example sentences. I don't know the answer. I couldn't help you yesterday. The first part refers to the present. The second to the past. And in order you to make it a conditional, you need to combine again. To combine a way of talking about a hypothetical presence with a way of talking about hypothetical past. Or, in other words, it's again a combination between second and third conditional. We are taking the first part of second conditional, past simple, because we speak about hypothetical present. And the result is, if I knew the answer, after that, I would have helped you yesterday, but I couldn't help you because I don't know. Hypothetical present based on hypothetical past. As a rule, if followed by past simple, after that would, have, and third form of the verb. The second form of mixed conditional is used about hypothetical situations. This is a present condition and a past result. A present condition that did not happen because of a past result which hadn't happened. Okay? Sounds more difficult than it is. Do the exercises and you'll believe me. Open the brackets. First one. He will take care of the children for us next weekend because his business trip was cancelled. But he wouldn't take care or wouldn't be taking care of the children for us next weekend if his business trip hadn't been cancelled. Mixed conditional. The first one, hadn't been cancelled, refers to the past. So, past hypothetical, third conditional. He would be taking care for the children, which means that it refers to the present and future. It's hypothetical again, which means second conditional. And is not going to come to dinner tomorrow because you insulted her yesterday. But she would come tomorrow if you hadn't insulted her the day before that. Mixed conditional. Anne is unhappy because she gave up her career when she got married. But Mary would be happy if she hadn't given up her career when she got married. Would be if she hadn't, but she had, so she is not. Hypothetical present based on a hypothetical past. Mixed conditional. Second exercise, you need to make conditionals from these situations. And let's get started. I don't speak Italian. I didn't apply for that job. If I spoke Italian, but I don't, I would have applied for that job, but I didn't. I married John 2 years ago. We have twins now. If I hadn't married John 2 years ago, but I had, we wouldn't have twins now, but we do. I can't drive. I couldn't give you a lift yesterday. If I could drive in the presence, but I can't, I would have given you a lift yesterday, but I didn't because I can't drive. I didn't call him last night. He's angry at me now. If I had called him last night, but I didn't, hypothetical about the past, he wouldn't be angry at me now, but he is. Hypothetical about the present. You see, with these sentences, if you are really good at second and third conditional, and if you catch the differences there, here it's not necessary even to think of them as structures. These structures will come to yourself as gut feeling, okay? So you will just know what to put where. Of course, it requires practice, a lot of practice. See you in the next video. In the next several lectures, we'll pay attention to some special advanced structures. Special structures that will help you express yourselves clearer. Nothing difficult here, just you need to get used to using them. Get used to another structure that we'll speak about in this level. So let's start with I'd rather. I'd rather stay at home than go out. I'd rather not go out tonight. As meaning, I'd rather, I want, I would like. As structure, grammatically pay attention. I'd rather stay at home. I'd rather, bare infinitive, only the verb. I'd rather stay. Then go. I'd rather then. I'd rather not go out. So when you want to say something negative, I'd rather not go out. Not I'd rather didn't or I'd rather don't. Something that I quite often hear, in fact, from students. I'd rather not go out. I'd rather handle the problem myself. I'd rather not help me. As meaning again, I'd rather the same as I would like, just I'd rather is a little bit more formal. I'd rather. What's the difference just when you speak for somebody else? I'd rather you stayed tonight. I'd rather you didn't go out tonight. You see, when you speak about yourself, you just use the bare infinitive. When you speak about somebody else, well, then you go into a kind of a hypothetical structure. And you know, in second conditional, when you speak about these hypothetical structures, after if, you need past simple. Well, it's same story here. I'd rather you stayed tonight. This is my wish, but I can't be sure, I can't control your actions. So because of this, here is used hypothetical situation, the sentence which indicates hypothetical situation. I'd rather you was past simple. I'd rather I'd rather you. As a rule, when you wish something for somebody else, I'd rather you, after that you use past simple. Easy, I told you. Do the exercises and we are checking them together. Good. 6 sentences. What we need to be careful about is if you want something for yourself or if it refers to somebody else. I'd rather go out soon. For me. I'd rather you, somebody else, didn't call me that late. I'd rather you didn't call me. I'd rather you, past simple, picked me up. I'd rather he, past simple, didn't come. I'd rather she came. I'd rather we spoke more often. Remember this structure. When you want something from somebody and you want to say it in an official way, let's say in a little bit more formal way, you use past simple. This one we'll need in our future lessons as well. Good. Next structure, next lecture. See you. Prefer and would prefer. The next 2 phrases or structures that will help you express yourselves clearer at a more advanced level. So let's get started. I prefer to live in the city. I prefer living in the city. After prefer, you can use to plus verb or you can use gerund. It doesn't matter, there isn't a difference in the meaning. Both cases mean that you speak about something in general. In general, you don't like the countryside. And in general, you prefer to live in the city or you prefer living in the city. Other situations in which these can be used. I prefer ice cream to chocolate. Structure, something to something. I prefer cycling to driving. Cycling to driving. First verb with ing, second verb with ing. I prefer to swim rather than to walk. You see here, the linking is a little bit more specific. We use rather than and to plus verb from both sides. I prefer to do something rather than to do something else. I prefer to swim rather than to walk. I'd prefer, or I would prefer. I'd prefer fruit juice. When you use I'd prefer, you refer to something specific, something in that situation. Would you prefer tea or coffee? Tea, please. It doesn't mean that you don't like coffee. It means that at this case, in this situation, you just prefer tea. You prefer something specific. I'd prefer to cycle to work. I would prefer. It's not that I don't like something else, okay? But this day or in general, I prefer to cycle to work. I'd prefer to stay home tonight rather than go to the restaurant. Rather than go. I would prefer to do something rather than do something else. Be careful about these short structures, and they're kind of misleading actually. When you start doing exercises for the certificate levels, you will see that these structures, these phrases are quite oftenly tested. If you try with my other courses, for example, which are for FC or for CE transformations, you will really notice that in those kind of exercises they practice this. Why? Because it's important for you. And it's important not in order to pass the test, not in order to get a certificate. It's important in order to start speaking the language better, to speak more fluently, and to feel more confident. Let's practice. I hope you've done the exercise, so we are starting. Prefer, would rather, and the correct small words over there. I prefer tea to coffee. Prefer something to something else. I don't fancy the cinema again. I'd rather go to the theater. I'd rather, infinitive. I'd rather go. Although I love relaxing at the seaside, I think I prefer walking. I prefer doing something in the mountains. I'd rather speak to her in person than discuss things over phone. I'd rather you speak about yourself. From the previous video, from the previous lecture, when you express your own wishes and desires, you use just infinitive. I'd rather speak. I prefer cars to trains. I prefer something to something else. Cars to trains. I'm not a big fan of trains. I prefer traveling by car. I prefer plus verb plus think. If I had a choice, I think I'd rather live in New York. Previous lecture. I'd rather, about myself, present simple. What about this one? I'd rather you. Yes, I'd rather you lived. So after I'd rather we use bare infinitive or only the verb form if we speak about ourselves, and we use past simple if we speak about somebody else. Good job. Next video. Last but not least, had better and ought to. Remember everything that you know about should. Had better and ought to are partially synonyms of should. Let's see what it means. I ought to phone my parents. Pay attention to the structure. I ought to. Ought to is a modal verb which is formal, which is not used very often, but which you'd better know. So, I ought to phone my parents. Ought to do something. People oughtn't to break the promises they've given. People oughtn't, negative form, oughtn't to break. In a modal verb, to, after that, infinitive, oughtn't to. How ought we to deal with the situation. Please write down all of these examples, as ought is a little bit stranger, and you will see that you can't come with it naturally. You need to have been introduced to it. You need to have worked with it. So, how ought we to deal with the situation? Ought to, same as should, a little bit more formal. This is the difference. In spoken English, it's not common at all to hear ought to. The other structure, we'd better or had better. The neighbors are complaining. We'd better turn the speakers down. We'd better. Anne is waiting for me. I'd better not be late. I'd better do something. I'd better not do something. Had better is stronger than should and ought to. Had better, although seems as a phrase which refers to the past, it's just misleading. Had better refers to the present. Had better is a modal construction which helps you express advice. But advice, something between advice and criticism already. So, had better stronger than should and ought to. Should and ought to are synonyms, with the difference that ought to is more formal. Remember the form ought to, always with to after that. Good job. As we started with ought to and had better as structures which are modal ones, let's keep on working on this one. Perfect modal verbs. Time to finish with the modal verbs in general. So perfect modal verbs. Might have done, may have done, could have done. This is the first group of modal verbs that we are going to pay attention to. Keep in mind that the meanings that we are going to take a look now may seem quite familiar to you. At the same time, you need to be really careful understanding the ways in which these modal verbs are used, when and why, and how exactly. Examples. Mark might have got lost, although I'm sure he's to appear soon. He might have got lost. You speak about the past, and you want to say that something is possible to have happened. He might have got lost. You may have forgotten your keys at work. I saw you take them out of the bag today. Something which happened before the moment of speaking. You again refer to the past. Modal verbs, when you express possibility, or when you express certainty, or when you express prediction in the past, you need to use the perfect modal verb structures. You may have forgotten your keys at work. I saw you take them out. Think for the perfect modal verbs as perfect tenses, okay? Someone could have found your pass. Don't worry. Before the moment of speaking, somebody could have found that. Could have, third form. All of the perfect modal verbs are structured in one and the same way. The modal verb, after that always have and never has, and then the third form of the verb, could have found. It's possible. The difference between the three verbs, might have got lost, may have forgotten, could have found. The same as in the presence. If you use might, you give the slightest chance of something to happen. May, the chance grows to 50%. Could, 75%. Again, the general structure of a perfect modal verb, may, might, or could, after that have, always have, then the third form of the verb. Must have done and can't have done. You remember in the previous level when we spoke about the modal verbs for deduction, there were examples as They must be home, the lights are on. Or they can't be home, the lights are off. Same story goes here. When you want to express certainty, repeating this one, in the past, in a moment before the moment of speaking, you use the perfect modal verbs must have done and can't have done. There isn't a perfect modal verb mustn't have done. It doesn't exist. Must have done, opposite, can't have done. Examples. They must have come back. The lights are on. So before the moment of speaking, they must have come back. I see something and it shows me that an action must have happened for sure. The opposite. They can't have come back. The lights are off. They can't have come back. Before the moment of speaking, it's impossible for them to have come back home. Why? Because the lights are off. The other pair. Should, shouldn't have done, and ought to have done. These two modal verbs are used for criticism. You criticize that somebody has or hasn't done something. Let's look at an examples. I should have taken my umbrella. You are right. So you are not giving advice to yourself, but you're criticizing your own actions. You accept that you made a mistake. I should have taken my umbrella. You oughtn't have spoken to him on that roadway. Or I oughtn't to have spoken to him. Oughtn't to or without to. Here it's up to you. In that roadway. It's again criticism. Criticism about something which happened before the moment of speaking. That was it. The modal verbs that can be used in their perfect forms. Might, may, could have done. The three of them express a chance, a possibility. There is a very slight chance something to have happened. Might. The chance is 50-50. There is a possibility this to have really happened. May have done. The chance is greater, 75%. Could have done. If you're sure that something has happened, must have done is the perfect modal verb that you need. If you're sure that something hasn't happened, then the modal verb you need is can't have done. If you want to criticize, to give criticism on somebody's actions, should have done, stronger, ought to have done, or ought have done. Exercises in the next video. Check this one again if necessary, because the information is partially new, but there are new nuances. And see you there. Let's see the perfect modal verbs in action. You know, that's the easiest way to remember something, in context. So in the first exercise, you have to choose between may, have, should have, must have, or can't have. John can't have gone on holiday. I saw him this morning. It's completely impossible. So you want to emphasize here that the action is 100% impossible to have happened. Can't have gone. Nobody answered the phone at the hospital. It may have closed early, or something else may have happened. So here you express possibility. May have closed. I should have revised more for the exam. I think I'll fail. You are criticizing yourself. I should have revised. I think I'll fail. Anne looks really pleased with herself. She must have passed her test this morning. So she looks pleased. Obviously, based on the facts, she must have passed her test this morning. I didn't know you were going to Tom's party yesterday. You should have told me. Criticism for something that was not done. Second exercise. I can't believe Peter hasn't arrived yet. He must have caught the wrong bus. From the first sentence, it's clear that the expected outcome was different. Or in other words, Peter was supposed to have already appeared. Well, considering that he is still not here, you conclude he must have caught 100% certainty. I can't believe Peter hasn't arrived yet. He can't have caught the correct bus. Logically from the first one, opposite meaning. Don't lie to me that you were ill last night. You can't have been ill. I saw you at the tennis game. 100% certainty that something didn't happen. I don't know where they went on holiday, but they bought euros before they left, so they may have gone to a European country. Or must have gone. Here it's important for you to catch the idea, and whether you will decide to express 100% or a 50% certainty, it's up to you. The idea of the exercise to get used to the structures, and please to start using these structures while you are speaking. Number 5. Her number was busy all day. She must have been on the phone continuously for hours. 100% certainty that something was in progress. Last sentence, transformations. It was not a good idea to listen to me. You shouldn't have listened to me. You are criticizing somebody for something that they did. You're wet. I'm sure you didn't take your umbrella. You can't have taken your umbrella. Based on the facts, it's clear that something didn't happen. I'm sure the plane took off. I saw the trace. So I'm sure, certainty that something happened. The plane must have taken off. I'm not sure where the phone is. I can't find it. I forgot. I may have forgotten the phone. There is a possibility that I have forgotten it, but I may have lost it as well. That's why you can't express certainty here. You need a modal verb expressing possibility. Whether you will go for may or might or could, it's up to you. Good job it was. Next lecture. I'm used to and get used to. Two phrases that you have heard me use a lot of times. They in fact show that you have a habit of doing something. One step at a time, let's start with be used to doing something. And examples first. I wake up at 5 every morning. I'm used to getting up early. It's my habit. I find it natural. I am used to getting. Pay attention to the structure. Be used to plus verb plus ing. I'm not used to being spoken to like that, even a little bit more advanced. I'm not used to. It means it's not typical for me to speak to me like this, but it's passive. I'm not used to, gerund passive, being spoken to like that. I have lived in London for years. I'm used to driving on the left. Be used to doing something. This is natural. This is your habit. Used to do something is different from be used to doing something. I used to live in America. I used to go to school in England. Do you remember this one? Yes. It refers to something which happened in the past and which does not happen anymore. Used to plus infinitive. I am used to doing is something completely different. Be used to doing means, again, something which is your habit. As structure, the difference in the second one, first you have the verb to be. After that, the following verb is with gerund, not with infinitive. exercises. So what you need to do is to open the brackets, choosing between used to do and used to doing. I hope you have already done it on your own, so we are checking it. I used to have long hair. Now it's short. You speak about something which was typical in the past and which is not typical anymore. Used to plus infinitive. I am used to going out on Fridays. It's been like that for ages. Be used to plus verb plus ing. I'm used to going out. It means that this is something typical. This is something habitual for you. Did you used to sleep till late when you were a child? Was it typical for you then, at that time? You remember how the questions are formed here. I used to do something. Did you used to do it? The same as in past simple. Number 4. Are you used to living in the mountains? You look really calm here. Is it natural for you? Is it your habit? Are you used to living? Be careful with the formation of the question again. We need the auxiliary be first, after that the structure itself. My sister used to be taken care of by my grandpa when she was a child. Passive, okay? Used to do something. Used to be taken care of when she was a child. Again, passive. I am not used to being spoken to in Chinese. That's really stressful. I'm not used to being spoken. It's not the natural situation I'm used to. I'm not used to being spoken. Gerund passive after this. Again, used to do, be used to doing. Used to do something in the past, you don't do it anymore. I am used to doing, it's natural, it's habitual. The other structure, get used to doing. Next video. The next structure that looks quite familiar to the previous two, and that will cause you a little bit of trouble, at least at the beginning. Get used to doing something. Example. I can't get used to getting up early. How did you get used to that? Get used to getting up. This is the structure that we need. It means that you can't acquire the habit. So when you use get used to doing something, you emphasize exactly on the fact that you are in the process of getting that habit, but you're still not there, or you have finally got used to that, but it took you some time. Structure, get used to plus verb plus ing. I can't get used to working at night. I'm a morning person, which means that I can't have the habit. It's difficult for me. It takes me time. Can't get used to plus verb plus ing. Get used to doing something. Acquire the habit of doing something. How did you get used to living in this noisy city? How did you acquire the habit? How did you get the habit of doing it? Get used to plus verb plus ing. And my favorite exercise, used to, be used to, or get used to. Do it, and we are checking it. Now, he used to be slim, but now he is fast. Contrast between past and present. Used to plus infinitive. He is not used to living in these bad conditions. He is not used to. He doesn't have the habit. It's not typical for him. Be used to plus verb plus ing. How did you get used to living in the middle of the forest? I can't do it. How did you acquire the habit of living here? How did you get used to living? I can't do it. Did you used to write poems when you were a child? Did you used to write something in the past which is not typical for you anymore? Used to plus verb. I need some time to get used to driving in this town, to acquire the habit, to start doing something new. I need some time to get used to driving. I am used to washing the dishes by hand. It's been like that for ages. Be used to doing something. This is something typical for you. This is your habit. I'm used to washing. I'm used to washing the dishes by hand. She used to live in Siberia. Now I saw she's moved to Canada. She used to live. In the past, she lived there. Now she lives in Canada. Something typical for the past, which is not typical for the present anymore. Used to do, past activities. Be used to doing something, habit. Get used to doing something, acquire the habit. Focus here on the duration of the activity. I hope that was clear enough. 2 more lectures and we are done with the level. See you in the next video. Now you are on the verge of reaching the C1, the advanced level. And mentioning the advanced level, it's good for you to start acquiring knowledge about some advanced grammar structures, as this one. Passive structure, which gives the idea that somebody is doing a professional favor for you. Have something done. Examples. Yesterday I had my hair cut. It means yesterday I went to the hairdressers and the hairstylist cut my hair. Had my hair cut. My mom had the door painted. Had the door painted. A professional painter came and painted the door or the wall, as on the picture. Have something done. I got the car serviced. The same. Get something done. I went to the service and the mechanist repaired the car, which means I had a professional favor by the mechanist who repaired my car. I got the car serviced. Have something done, get something done, meaning have something done for you as a professional favor. These structures are really quite commonly used in more official as well as in more advanced way of talking. But recently I've noticed in fact that they started using them in spoken English as well. So really get used to using them and get aware of putting them in the correct places. Let's practice. The PDF and the answers. Tomorrow I will have my hair cut. Have something done. In the correct verb form, of course. Tomorrow, will future. Tomorrow I will have my hair cut. If you want, if you think that this is an agreement, you can say, tomorrow I'm going to have my hair cut. Each Monday, we get a pizza delivered to our home. Each Monday, we get a pizza delivered. Get something done. It means that we have a professional favor done by somebody. Get a pizza delivered. Last year, I had my house cleaned by a chairman. I had my house cleaned. Somebody who is a professionalist came and cleaned my house. I had my house cleaned. As Anne had a broken arm, she was having her texts typed by the secretary. So she couldn't do it. Somebody came and did it for her. She was having the texts typed by the secretary. Every Friday, Tom has his car washed. Every Friday, repetitive action. Have something done. Tom has his car washed. Tomorrow, she will have her shower repaired. Have something done. She will have her shower repaired. I will have the goods picked tomorrow in the afternoon. I will have something done. A professionalist is going to do it as a favor. Whenever Mark is staying at this hotel, he has his bags carried into the room. He has his bags carried. Have something done. Remember the basics. Have something done, get something done. These are synonyms, and these are phrases which mean that somebody is doing something for you as a professional favor. From there on, it's practice and sentences. Think for sentences of your own in order to be able to associate this grammar unit with examples that are familiar to you. See you in the next lecture. The wish sentences we are going to examine in this lecture are quite familiar to you, even if you don't know it. They're familiar because they are similar to conditional sentences. Let's see them in practice. I don't have a brother. This is the reality. And you say, I wish I had a brother. I wish I had. I live in the USA. This is the reality. I wish I lived in the USA. When the situation is in the present and you want to express a hypothetical wish in the present, you use past simple. I wish I had. The sentence is hypothetical. It's a wish. Go on. I didn't call her, I'm sorry. I wish I had called her. I wish I. It's such a pity I didn't know about the party. I wish I had known about the party. So when there is a wish in the past, it's a hypothetical wish because you can't change it. You can't change the past, which means that you need the hypothetical structure in past perfect. It's still raining. I wish it would stop raining. In such situation, you need to say that you wish somebody else did something. So it is in the present, but you introduce another doer, and this other person has no idea, or this other thing, you can't control it. Because of this, you need to use would plus the infinitive of the verb, and in this way you refer to the future. I wish it would stop raining. Nobody's answered my mail yet. I wish somebody would answer my mail. I wish somebody would. Again, you wish somebody else, not you, which means that this is not an action controlled by you, would do something. I wish somebody would answer. Let's practice. Do the exercises in the attached PDF. We are checking it after that. Now, I'm not very tall. I wish I were taller. The same as if I were you. Here you don't use the was form, you use were. I wish I were. I didn't learn German when I was younger. Wish about the past. I wish I had learned German when I was younger. I can't speak perfect Russian. I wish I could speak perfect Russian. My hair isn't red. I wish I had red hair. I wish I had. My handwriting is unreadable. It's a wish about the present. I wish I had a better handwriting. I didn't sleep very well last night. I wish I had slept well last night. So again, wish about the present, you need past simple. Wish about the past, you need past perfect. Wish about somebody else to do something in the future, you need would. Masters of grammar, right? See you in the last lecture for this level. Linking and expressing complex ideas will be the focus in the last part of this course, in the C1 level. But as this is the very last lecture of yours here in the B2 level, let's get started. What we are going to talk about are the differences between although, in spite of, and despite. Examples. Although it was rainy, they enjoyed the holiday. Although it, pronoun after although. In spite of the rain, they enjoyed the holiday. Despite the rain. In spite of something, despite something. Just mark them, as grammar structures will explain them again. Although I had the certificate, I didn't get the job. Although, pronoun. In spite of the certificate, in spite of something, despite the certificate. The same, despite something. Here they are. So, from the first two sentences, you notice that the structure after although is the following. Although plus the pronoun, or the subject in these cases, and a verb. In spite of the rain, despite the rain. In spite of, remember, this one goes with of always after that. In spite of something, despite, without of, despite something. After in spite of and despite, you need a noun. In spite of something, despite something. More examples. Although I had the certificate, I didn't get the job. They didn't hire me in spite of having the certificate. Or, despite having the certificate, they didn't hire me. They didn't hire me in spite of the fact that. Or, despite the fact that. Well, these are the other situations, the other structures, in fact, in which you can use in spite of and despite. Option 1, in spite of or despite plus verb plus ing. Option 2, in spite of or despite plus the fact that. In spite of the fact that, despite the fact that. As meaning, although, in spite of, and despite are synonyms. Almost same story goes with even though and though. Even though is a little bit more stronger than although. Though is a little bit more formal. So this is the only criteria on which you can see the difference between these linkers. Some examples. I didn't get the job, although I deserved it. I didn't get the job, I deserved it though. As a position in the sentence, you see that though goes at the end of the sentence. I didn't get the job, though I deserved it, or on the same place as although. Even though I deserved the job, I didn't get it. As a summary from these examples, although and though can stay at any position of the sentence. Even though is only at the beginning, always. And time to practice it. Do the exercise, we are checking it together. Alright? We enjoyed our camping holiday in spite of the rain, or despite the rain. Despite the pain in his leg, or in spite of the pain in his leg, he kept on running. We had a great time in spite of something or despite something, the weather. Although she is beautiful, she is not happy. Because of the pronoun there, you can't use either in spite of or despite. Although she. The children slept deeply despite something, despite the noise. In spite of or despite plus verb plus ing. In spite of earning a low salary, she didn't want to change her job. Tom rarely sees Anne, and you need to use fact. With the two structures of fact, you can use either in spite of or despite. Tom rarely sees Anne in spite of the fact that they are neighbors, or despite the fact that they are neighbors. Anne did not do well in the exam despite working very hard, or in spite of working very hard. That's the first deeper look at advanced English grammar. Everything else in the last section, in the last level, the C1 level. I hope that you're finding this course really useful. I hope that you've reached up to this point and you're heading for the advanced level now. Looking forward to reading any feedback from you. So, see you in the C1 level.